Hi, I'm Rich Ribeiro. The Turrell Fund is committed to educating the public about the need to support New Jersey's infants and toddlers right from the start. That's why we're proud to support the important early childhood programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
Funding for this edition of Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been provided by the Turrell Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, the Russell Berry Foundation, RWJ Barnabas Health, PSE&G, committed to providing safe, reliable energy now and in the future, NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, and by New Jersey Resources. Promotional support provided by ROINJ, informing and connecting businesses in New Jersey, and by NorthJersey.com and Local IQ, part of the USA Today network.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. This is a special edition of Think Tank. No, we're not in a studio in New Jersey or New York. We are in beautiful Shelburne, Vermont. Why? Because we've come here to Vermont because this is a very special day. This is the Turrell Fund Day for Children 2019. The theme that comes from the great Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers of PBS, is the importance of love in early childhood. This is part of our initiative called Right from the Start. And Jay, you'll see our website up throughout this program. We're in Vermont because all the research tells us that Vermont's doing some really important things when it comes to early childhood, when it comes to childcare issues, when it comes to early childhood development. So Think Tank is all about important issues that affect you, our neighbors, as Mr. Rogers would say. And so we're joined by a very distinguished panel on Think Tank to talk about all these issues. It is my pleasure to introduce them. First, Atiya Weiss is the executive director of the Burke Foundation. Dr. Arturo Brito, we know very well, been with us many times, executive director of the Nicholson Foundation. Dominique Lee is the founder and CEO of Brick Education Network, also a 2015 grand prize winner of the Rusberry Award for Making a Difference. And finally, Reva Sullivan Murphy is the deputy commissioner for child development in Vermont at the Department for Children and Families. I want to thank all of you for joining us up here in Vermont. This is Shelburne Farms, a very special place. There's an event that's going on. You can hear the sound around us. They're in a lunch break right now, but all kinds of folks talking about important issues. Right out of the box, let me ask you, Atiya, the issues that are being discussed today as it relates to child care, early childhood, the most salient issue so far in this conference has been?
The shortage of infant and toddler childcare.
The shortage of?
And what Vermont is doing to address that gap. They plan to have high quality spots for 100% of Vermont's children.
Yeah, and Arturo, we've talked about this many times. Arturo's been with us, and by the way, check out our website. You'll see interviews with Arturo. You talk about toxic stress, but the theme today, doctor, is about love and the connection between love and early childhood. What is that connection? And by the way, by background, a pediatrician.
Right.
Talk to us.
Pediatrician, and I'm proud of my scientific background, and I find it fascinating how the intersection between love and science, and it's all proving that those first few years of life are critical, and what every single child needs is to be loved, to be read to be talked to, but in a very loving way, and to feel safe in their environment. And I just think it's fascinating after all these years. What Fred Rogers said, this is really about 1968, right? And how important love is. The science is proving it. You know, we need to hold our children, our infants, toddlers, make them feel secure, talk to them, teach them, sing to them, and the rest of their lives, they will have that foundation to build on, and they're more likely to become healthier, productive adults.
Well said, doctor, but here's the interesting thing, Dominique. You deal with these children every day. Your work is around these children. So no one disagrees that love is a key, that caring for our infants and toddlers is critically important to their development. What are some of the barriers or factors that get in the way of that?
I mean, there's a host of barriers, but the biggest barriers that was mentioned from Tia is that, our society, unfortunately, has put people on the margins of society. And the families that I serve right now, there's really no
Describe
access.
them. You're in Newark?
Yeah, I'm in Newark, New Jersey. We are a place-based initiative in the South Ward in Newark, New Jersey. So similar to a lot of stats that you might find in urban environments that are distressed because of past injustices that have happened, some of our families just don't have the necessary resources to afford a quality healthcare center. So they rely on what might be provided from the state. And then some of those centers are also underfunded, right? Because they might not have this special cert or this special cert. So there's just a lack of access, having the ability to actually have the ability to go to a quality center. So, that's the big barrier. It's just around how do we properly fund some of our childcare centers in a way that puts them on the professional track, right? If you're giving your child to this place, shouldn't that place be given the necessary resources to provide a quality center?
And shouldn't those who are caring for our infants and toddlers be paid a wage that is commensurate with
the value that
they're providing?
Right.
Deputy Commissioner, please share.
I think it's really important, that idea of access. And I think in the United States, we often talk about, we all agree what infants and toddlers need. We have the science, but we don't act on the science. We don't invest the amount that we need to allow all families, particularly the most vulnerable families, the access to that high quality. I think the emphasis today on relationships and love just warms my heart, because that's what it takes. But it does mean that those helpers, those professionals, they need to be really good.
Right.
It goes beyond instinct to training, to mentoring, to support, and then they give that support to the kids, and more importantly, as importantly, to those families, because then the families are with the kids all the rest of the time, parenting despite amazing challenges that they face in their lives.
But I'm curious about this. And again, we're in Vermont, as I said, because our research shows that Vermont is leading the country in a lot of ways in terms of early childhood issues. But what I'm curious about is you have to get politicians, elected officials, legislators to pony up, meaning you got serious budget crisis, budget issues in New Jersey, in Vermont, in states all across this nation, not to mention the federal government. So how do we fit in early childhood as a priority to say this is a smart investment? It's not just, it'd be nice if we did it. We have to do this.
Right. I mean, if you look at all the research, early childhood has the best return on investment, 13%. It's a pathway out of poverty. It gives you stability as a family and lifelong success for kids. I mean, we know this right now.
It pays off.
It's the best investment you can make, those 1,000 days of a child's life, those first 1,000 days.
Well, when you say that's 0 to 3. And by the way, let's do something else. I don't want to go too far afield here, but we worked with Atiya and her group at Burke Foundation, also Nicholson funded, and the Turrell Fund. There was a conference a few months back. Check our website out on ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences. How is that question of the adverse childhood experiences that infants and toddlers face connected to this conference today?
I think it's all about relationships, right? So we know that those first 3 years are so vitally important for a kid's life. That is when your brain is just exploding in terms of neuron development. It's also the time of greatest vulnerability for a child, right? When you think about their brain architecture, you are really even more risk for trauma. So you may, if you're dealing with homelessness, family separation, violence, exactly, substance abuse, like a lot of your families may be facing in the South Ward, that is going to have a detrimental effect and hinder a child's development. So we need to figure out, how do we think about trauma, right? And how do we address it? I think one of the things that we just heard today is that, and I think one of the most profound things, is that it only takes one caring, stable adult in a child's life to buffer them against that adversity. One, the power of one.
Arturo, jump back in.
Yeah, I think Atiya put it best when she talked about adverse childhood experiences, trauma-informed care. We recently met with Commissioner Byer at the Department of Children and Families in New Jersey. And she's had a lot of experiences before she came back to New Jersey, setting up programs in other states that are focused on those first few years of life. She refers to focusing on healing-centered care.
Say it again.
Healing-centered care.
Translate that.
Well, that means is that first we talk about preventing trauma in the first few years of life. But when it does happen, you focus not so much on the trauma itself, but on ensuring that that child has a supportive adult around them, or adults, and that they will have the best chance of overcoming that trauma and grow up with a self-esteem, grow up with a healthier view of themselves, and they will both be mentally more stable as they grow and healthier physically as well because of that focus and because of the support they receive from at least that one adult on a consistent basis. And this is why, going back to some of the points that Reva was making, why we need to support early childhood care and education. Parents struggle, even under the best circumstances, parents struggle to always be there for their children because it's very difficult when you're working full time. They need to be confident when they drop off their children in an early childhood care and education center that the folks that are working there understand the importance of those first few years, the importance of that stimulation that children need, and the importance of holding those babies and those toddlers and giving them the feedback they need so they can grow up to be healthier children and healthier adults.
And on that point, let's continue this conversation. So, folks, here's the thing. You look at our website right now, which, in all candor, to disclose, is underwritten by the Nicholson Foundation. So I want you to do this. I want you to go on our website, right from the start, nj.org. Go on that website, which you'll see articles, clips from previous programs, resources that you need to be aware of, because we say that our children are, in fact, our most precious resource. But Dominique, we have to back that up with action, not rhetoric. Is that not right?
That's correct. And we have to get to this level that we are connected, and we know that all children are our children, right? All children.
Someone says, devil's advocate, I'm sorry for interrupting. Hey, my kids are all right. I've got my kid in a good child care center. I know the people who are taking care of my kid. I can afford it. I have access. I'm good, but...
There's a level of empathy you have to have for everyone that you're connected with as a community, right?
Which is what Mr. Rogers said as well.
That's correct. I mean, until we get over this notion that we are separate and that we are together, we are never going to get to that point. You mentioned earlier, like, how do we get the politicians to get on board with this? Because it's not a universal issue yet. Everyone is not feeling the same effects of when it comes to this, right? So as we continue to march towards this line of equity, right? It's getting to that point of getting over this point that the other is not the other.
The other.
Yeah, it's we are together, not the other, right? Because right now we have this sense of fear of the other. Like, you're not like me, so I don't like you. Or you do something different than what I grew up with, and that's not for me, right?
What about that person's infant and toddler? Are they really other? Is an infant and toddler really an other?
You can't isolate race and socioeconomics from this issue. Right? If we continue to isolate that out of this issue, we will never get to that point where we're going to have equality, because that is at the root of as many issues in America, right? We can't do universal early childhood centers because guess what? That affects people who don't look like me, who don't come from the same neighborhood as me, right? So until we get to that point of addressing some of the root causes of why, because on the face of it, it's children, right? We all would agree with children.
There's no controversy
right?
there.
There's no controversy, right? But what happens when it's a child that is the mother who might be black, might be in South Ward of Newark,
might be someone who's come to this country from another country,
right?
Deal with immigration when it comes to early childhood.
Yeah, right. You know, deal with what we see going on the border, right? So we have to address the underlying issues that prevent us from actually saying these are children and made in the image of God.
Our children.
Our children. Let's invest in our children. But the question is, what is our children?
That's right. So let's do this. By the way, we're going to go to a quick break right now and get the Deputy Commissioner back in. And by the way, we are honored to be in your home state.
Oh, thank you.
I tell you, you're so nice to folks in New Jersey and everywhere else.
We like folks from New Jersey. And by the way, you're all invited to move here if you'd like.
Oh, no, hold on. We'll have to speak to
all of New
Governor
Jersey
Murphy.
hear that.
Governor Murphy's not going to like that you said that.
I know, that's okay.
By the way, I just want to give a locator again. We are at the Coach Barn at Shelburne Farms, Shelburne, Vermont. This is the Turrell Fund Day for Children, the importance of love in early childhood. It comes from Fred Rogers. We're talking about Fred Rogers because this is an incredible documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor? You're coming back in this conversation, Reva. This is Think Tank, but remember, we bring you the information, but in the end, I always say this. You got to think for yourself. We'll be right back.
To watch more Think Tank with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
Welcome back to Think Tank. I'm Steve Adubato, coming to you from beautiful Vermont. Vermont's known for a lot of things. It's not just maple syrup. The other thing they're known for is the fact that they are groundbreaking. They've been groundbreaking in their work when it comes to early childhood issues, when it comes to childcare issues, when it comes to, in fact, paying more for those who care for our children. And we're honored to be joined in our Think Tank panel by Reva Sullivan Murphy, who is a Deputy Commissioner for Child Development at the Vermont Department for Children and Families. So let me ask you, why is this day, this Turrell Fund Day for children, everyone coming together, why is it historic and significant?
Well, I think Turrell Day is historical and significant in Vermont because it does bring everybody together. You come out and you see all the other people who are working on this issue because really the success in Vermont is about coalition building.
Explain that.
It's about private philanthropic folks who, built this sort of movement around getting the word out.
Is there a movement?
There is a movement here. 30,000 people in a state of 600,000.
You definitely feel it.
That's significant.
And the
You can
movement's
feel
around,
that.
explain to folks what the movement is about.
Is around access to affordable childcare by 2025. That's the movement. And I remember a few years back when the Permanent Fund started talking about we need more of a movement.
The Permanent
And
Fund was one of the funds up here
is one of the
committed to
funds
early
here that
childhood.
would
Go ahead.
committed to this, that sort of began the Let's Grow
Yep.
Kids movement. And I was like, I came from Rhode Island originally. I said, people here already believe in this. You don't need to spend $500,000 on that. And yet, they knew that was the right thing to do. They worked on messaging. They worked on gathering everyone from providers to parents to grandparents to legislators to all their philanthropic partners to government partners like us. Everybody's part of that coalition. And it showed this year. It was we got the largest investment in childcare. We got $7.4 million.
In the history of the state.
Well, we've invested big, almost to that level before, but nothing else got that big of an investment this year. And it got through with almost no argument.
So I was going to say bipartisan. In your state, it's tripartisan.
Yes,
There are three.
tripartisan. That's
Just
right.
tell folks, by way of background, because we're Jersey, we only have
Right.
two.
Yeah,
And they just fight with each other.
We have a very small group of Republicans in our legislature, to be truthful. We have a number of Democrats, but we have a significant progressive party. And our governor is a Republican. So he kicked it off in January, announcing in his budget a new $7 million investment supporting his goals towards early childhood. At the same time, Let's Go Kids was building a coalition
Let's Go Kids is the consortium that has been pushing this.
Of private
By the way,
funders
Allie
who've been
Richards,
funding that.
who is the CEO there, we actually did an interview with her up here as well. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Phenomenal. So they were sort of building a coalition of legislators. Literally, I met freshman legislators who met me in the State House this year and went, I'm here about childcare. I need to talk to you.
Are you
And I'm like,
seriously?
Hi, can't wait to talk to you some more. But that was happening. And then they brought, every day I was there this year, every day, there were childcare providers, parents, there were people sitting in committee rooms. Our committee rooms are very small. They were full of people every time childcare came up. Families and providers and advocates, like everyone was there.
So I'm curious about this. We keep saying that Vermont is in some ways a national model. But so now I want to nationalize this conversation. So Vermont puts in a certain amount of money, and I know the federal government put in some money. I don't know if it was a match or not, but there was some. You already shook your head, no, I got it. But here's the thing, I'm curious. With the tone and tenor of the political discourse in our nation's capital, where does the conversation on child care, caring for infants and toddlers, where does it fit into our nation's capital's conversation, the conversation in our nation's capital about the issues that matter? What does it sound like? Am I missing it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fragmentation going on, right, between national government, state governments. I think that's why what we're seeing in Vermont is so exciting. You're taking it on at the state level to make a difference on this. I think it could go an incredibly long way if we started talking about paid family leave at the national level. So,
explain to folks, what does that have to do with early childhood issues, child care issues?
Yeah, so there's, a shortage of infant and toddler childcare. Now, if moms and caregivers were allowed to stay home with their kids from 12 weeks to 6 months, that can make a big difference. And also, it gets back to that whole conversation around love and attachment, right? Connecting the child with its primary caregiver.
So, and Doctor, jump in, I'll come back to you, Dominique. we're not here to talk politics, but we are here to talk policy.
Right.
Federal government policy as it relates to the issues we're talking about here in Vermont. Childcare, priority?
Steve, this is a nonpartisan issue. Regardless of where you stand, I think what people
Democrats,
understand,
Republicans,
it doesn't
progressives,
matter.
conservatives,
Because
nothing to do with
the
it.
word that Reva used,
They
the
agree.
buzzword is, this is the best investment this country can make for the country. This investment in early childhood will yield healthier, happier children who become healthier, happier adults who are more productive in society. And with the paid family leave, that's part of it, because when parents feel like they can, first, we want parents taking care of their children, their infants when they're born, and then they need a place to drop them off that they feel they are in a safe environment where they're getting the education that they need, meaning forming attachments, relationships, being read to, being talked to, being sang to.
Learning
and
to deal with conflict.
Learning to deal with conflict,
Right, the social emotional
exactly.
development.
And therefore, our society, whatever state, whatever community, whatever state, and certainly our country would be better off. So it's a nonpartisan issue. This is the best investment any of us can make.
Dominique, did you say cradle to
Career?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what does that mean? I heard this, I said, that's a great slogan. What does it mean? Cradle to career, break it
So
down.
basically, it's this concept that, a child and a family in a two-generation model should be looked at as a holistic approach to following from the time that the child is born to the point that the child is now in college, then they're graduating from college in their career and do their career. Harlem Children's Zone is probably one of the most well-known.
Harlem
Children's
Yeah.
Zone.
Right.
It's probably one of the most well-known cradle-to-career
Is that
programs.
Jeffrey
Canada's.
Jeffrey Canada,
yes,
yeah.
Program that is in Harlem that
Yep.
started almost about 25 years ago.
That's
I think,
right.
Probably a bit longer than that, yeah. But I think going back to what we were mentioning about how do we get this into a national landscape, like one of my dreams is that there's actually a politician who says, I want to focus on family.
Hold on one second. You
Yeah.
got a whole bunch of Democrats running for president in 2020. You got at least one Republican running for re-election for president.
Yes.
You expect, you hope,
I hope.
a candidate says what?
My package is a family package. In America, the family structure is under threat. And how can we support as a nation reorienting our family structures to support families to be more successful, right? So that's family paid leave, that's housing assistance, that's a whole, what does it take for us to get to this point of families are the core of our economy?
Let me play
Middle
devil's
class,
advocate.
Yes.
Sorry for interrupting. This is Think Tank. Check it out. Check our website out for more information right from the start, NJ. How about this? In a couple minutes we have left. I remember a few years back, people ran for office saying, I'm for family values. All about family values.
Yeah, but that was all the social values. Like, let's talk
what do
about
you
the
mean?
hard knocks values, which is I need to put milk on the table for my children. How can you assist me?
That's
in
not what they
helping
meant
them?
when they said
no,
family
they
value?
wanted to. It was more of a controlling people and how they feel, right? Let's actually talk about the brass tacks of raising families.
And so family values right now, someone says, I want to campaign on family. What would it mean to you, Reva?
I want to see the investment. I think one of the things that has happened here in Vermont is
Are you
when-
saying show me the money?
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I first
Not
came,
my
I said
quote, but
people
go ahead.
think it's a good idea. They don't understand the price tag. So I would have a new secretary say to me, what if I gave you $1 million? I'd say, you got $1 million, you got 10, because that changes what I can do with it. And I think one of the things that we've done here, we've had
In
we had
Vermont.
in Vermont, we had a blue ribbon commission analyzing what we thought we needed to go where we wanted to go, and they've started to the $7 million is a down payment. It's not like, oh, we gave you all that money, don't come back.
Is it a beginning?
They know it's a beginning. They know that in the next 3 years to get where we need to go, we're going to have to double it.
I've got a minute left. Bring it back to New Jersey. How confident are you that we can engage? Listen, we're in public broadcasting and FiOS and other platforms. We're not advocates, but we do bring advocates on. To what degree do you believe that public officials in New Jersey, from the governor on down, ready for this conversation, ready to do what Dominique just described?
I think there's an appetite for it, Steve. I do feel like there's an opportunity for conversation to happen right now. And I also think, Governor Murphy has talked a lot about how do we keep millennials in
Yep.
New Jersey, right? Family is a big part of that.
Yep.
Can we have the affordable childcare, right? Can we think about compensating those teachers to what they deserve? 86% of early childhood teachers make less than $15 an hour.
What?
Yeah. There's
Less-
six times less investment
part of the price
in
tag.
0 to 3 than there is
They've
in
been getting it for
elementary
free.
education.
Final words, got a few seconds left.
Final word, I want people to think of every time they see a child, every child is special, every child is unique, and every child deserves the best possible start in life.
Even if that's not my kid.
Especially if it's not your kid, because you're going to take care of your children, but you should also be taking care of other children through programs like this.
Well said, Doctor. So, folks, this has been a very special edition. The first time that think tank has gone on location when I could not think of a better place to be other than here in Vermont, talking about our Right from the Start NJ initiative, talking about the connection between love and early childhood development, talking to a distinguished panel like this. So I want to thank all of you. I want to thank the Turrell Fund. I want to thank Nicholson, the Burke Foundation, and all of you for being with us. Invite us back to Vermont, okay?
Always.
Okay, and listen, this has been Think Tank. I'm Steve Adubato, and we thank you for joining us, but make sure in the end, we can talk about childcare and child development all we want, but in the end, you have to think about it, but more importantly, in this case, do something. Catch you next time.
Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 30 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been provided by the Turrell Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, the Russell Berry Foundation, RWJ Barnabas Health, PSE&G, NJIT, and by New Jersey Resources. Promotional support provided by ROINJ and by NorthJersey.com and Local IQ. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
PSE&G is building New Jersey's clean energy future. We're working to protect our network against extreme weather, expanding and upgrading transmission lines, and modernizing our natural gas system by installing new, more durable underground pipes. At PSE&G, our goal is to make sure you have the safe, reliable energy you need to power your life now and into the future.